The first thing Devon noticed was the silence. Not the usual Detroit noise of traffic on Gratiot Avenue and music bleeding from car windows. This silence was different. It was thick, heavy, waiting, like the moment before lightning splits the sky. Devon froze with a water bottle halfway to Brielle's lips. Brielle was sitting weakly on the cracked plastic chair inside his small auto repair shop, tucked between an abandoned lot and a corner store with bars on the windows. Her back rested against a metal tool cabinet, and her eyes were barely open. Her lips were slightly apart, waiting for the next sip. Devon's hands were shaking as he helped her drink. Not because he was scared of hard work. Devon had fixed transmissions in winter cold, summer heat, and even during power outages. He was shaking because Brielle looked like she could fade away at any moment, like life was slipping from her slowly, and he was fighting to keep her here. "Just a little more," Devon whispered, voice soft like a brother's. "You need to stay strong." Brielle swallowed with effort. Her throat moved slowly. Her eyes fluttered, tired, dull, but still holding on. Devon forced a small smile even though his chest felt tight. That was when the convoy arrived. Black Cadillac Escalades. Not one, not two, 5 of them. They rolled up from the street like a presidential motorcade. Their windows tinted dark, their bodies gleaming like fresh paint. The shop suddenly felt smaller, more exposed, like a hiding place that had been discovered. The vehicles parked in formation, blocking the street. Men stepped out first. Big men, security, dark suits, earpieces, stone faces. They looked like people who never asked twice. They gave orders once. They spread out fast, scanning the area, checking rooftops, watching corners like they expected danger to come from Devon's stack of used tires and empty oil drums. Devon's hand stopped midair. His mouth opened, but no words came. His mind searched for a reason why people like this would come to a struggling repair shop in East Detroit. He had never seen anything like it in his life. The nearest guard looked at him like Devon was a problem that needed solving. Devon's stomach twisted. Then the door of the lead Escalade opened slowly, like the pause before thunder. A polished leather shoe touched the cracked pavement. Then another, and a man stepped out. He was tall, broad, commanding. He wore an expensive charcoal suit with a crisp white shirt. His salt and pepper beard was perfectly trimmed, and his face looked like it belonged on television. Serious, controlled, powerful. Even without anyone saying his name, you could tell this man had money and influence. The air shifted. The whole block seemed to hold its breath. The guards stood straighter. A woman selling water bottles nearby stopped calling out. Even the wind felt still. The man looked around once. His eyes landed on Devon's shop. Then he began to walk toward it, one measured step at a time, calm like he owned the street. Devon's heart pounded faster. His mind raced. Did I mess up somebody's car? Is this the feds? Is this something worse? But the man didn't look like police. He looked like someone police answered to. Devon stood up quickly, almost dropping the water bottle. He wiped his greasy hands on his stained gray coveralls, even though it didn't help. His fingers were still black with motor oil. The man got closer. His eyes focused ahead. Devon noticed something strange. The man's face was tight with pain, not anger. Pain like a father holding back tears. Devon swallowed hard. Brielle shifted slightly behind him. She was weak, but the sound of the convoy had reached her too. Her head lifted a little. Her eyes tried to focus. The man stepped into the shop. The dirty pavement marked the bottom of his expensive pants, but he didn't seem to care. He took one look at Devon. Then his eyes moved past him and locked on Brielle. The man's breath caught. His shoulders jerked like someone had hit him in the chest. For a second, he didn't move. He just stared. Then suddenly he rushed forward. Not slowly, not carefully. He rushed like a man running towards something he thought he'd lost forever. Devon stepped back in shock. "Sir?" Devon started, but the man didn't acknowledge him. He dropped to his knees right there on the oil-stained floor. His suit touched dirt, his knee landed on concrete, and this powerful man, this man who looked like he could buy half of Detroit, began to cry. Real tears. They fell from his eyes and hit the ground like rain. His lips trembled. His hands reached toward Brielle like he was afraid she might disappear if he looked away. "My baby girl," the man whispered, voice breaking. "Brielle." Devon's world stopped. Brielle's eyes widened slightly. She struggled to lift her hand. The man held her carefully like she was made of glass. Then he pulled her into his arms, hugging her so gently, so desperately, as if he was holding the last piece of his heart. Brielle's head rested against his chest. Even in her weakness, she hugged him back faintly, slowly, like her body remembered him before her mind could fully understand. Devon stood there frozen. His ears rang. His mouth went dry. Did he just say Brielle? The man looked up at Devon, tears streaming down his face. His voice was shaking now, but it carried weight. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for saving my daughter." Devon's heart dropped. His fingers loosened. The water bottle almost fell from his hands. In that moment, Devon realized something that made his knees weak. The dying girl he had rescued and cared for every single day wasn't just a stranger. She was somebody's child, somebody powerful, somebody wealthy, somebody who had enough money to send black Escalades to a struggling repair shop in East Detroit. Devon's lips moved without sound. Then the man said his next words, and Devon felt like the ground had opened beneath him. "I am Theodore Price," the man said softly, like the name didn't even need explanation. "And Brielle is my only daughter. She's been missing for 6 weeks. Devon's head spun. Theodore Price, the Theodore Price, the real estate mogul people talked about on the news, the man whose company owned half the buildings downtown, the man whose convoy could shut down an entire block. Devon's vision blurred for a second. He grabbed the edge of the metal workbench to steady himself. Brielle blinked slowly, her face pale, her lips dry. Theodore wiped his tears with the back of his hand, but the crying didn't stop. He kept holding Brielle as if letting go would kill her. Then one of the guards stepped forward, voice low and urgent. "Sir, we need to move her now. We have to get her to a hospital immediately." Theodore nodded sharply, his father's fear turning into quick action. He looked back at Devon again. His face was full of gratitude and something else, something heavy. Like Theodore already knew there was more to this story. More than Devon understood. "Please," Theodore said, still kneeling, still holding Brielle. "Tell me where you found her." Devon opened his mouth, but before he could answer, Brielle suddenly coughed. A deep, painful cough. Her body jerked. Her eyes rolled back slightly. Her head fell limp against Theodore's arm. Theodore's face changed in 1 second from grateful to terrified. "Brielle!" he shouted. The guards moved instantly. Devon's water bottle finally dropped, splashing across the concrete floor. And Devon rushed forward too, panic rising in his throat because the girl he had fought so hard to keep alive was collapsing again, right inside his small shop, right in front of her billionaire father. And this time, Devon wasn't sure she would wake up. Brielle's body went completely limp in Theodore's arms, her eyes closing fully while the convoy guards shouted for space. Devon stood shaking, staring at the girl he had been helping every day, wondering if she was about to die right here after her father finally found her. "Move! Give us room!" The shout cut through the air like a gunshot. Devon stumbled backward as the guards rushed in. One of them gently but firmly pushed him aside while another pulled out a medical kit from inside the Escalade. Devon's heart hammered in his chest as he watched Theodore hold Brielle tighter, his expensive suit now stained with oil and water. Brielle's body was frighteningly light, her head lulled to the side, her lips were turning pale. "Brielle, please," Theodore whispered, his voice shaking badly now. "Daddy's here. Open your eyes, baby." But Brielle didn't respond. Devon's legs felt weak. He had seen hurt people before. He had seen accidents, broken bones, bleeding faces brought to his shop because hospitals were too far or too expensive. But this was different. This girl had been fading slowly for weeks, and Devon had been fighting death with nothing but food, water, and care. And now death was pushing back. "Sir, she's very weak," one guard said quickly after checking Brielle's pulse. "We have to move now." Theodore nodded fast. "Take her now." The men lifted Brielle carefully and carried her toward the vehicle. Theodore followed closely, his eyes never leaving her face. Devon stood there helpless, his hands empty, his heart screaming to go with them, but his legs refused to move. He had fed her every day, sat with her every evening, listened to her labored breathing. Now she was being taken away, and he didn't even know if he would ever see her again. Theodore stopped suddenly and turned. His sharp eyes found Devon. "You!" he said firmly. Devon flinched. "Sir." "Come with us," Theodore said. "You know her condition better than anyone." Devon's breath caught. Before he could even think, a guard grabbed his arm, not rough but urgent, and pulled him toward the Escalade. Devon looked back at his shop, the old tools, the broken cars, the plastic chair, everything he owned in this world. Then the Escalade door slammed shut and the convoy sped off. The hospital was private, quiet, pristine, too clean, too calm. Devon felt dirty just standing there in his stained coveralls. Doctors moved fast. Machines beeped. Brielle was taken into a room Devon wasn't allowed to enter. Theodore stood outside, pacing. He was no longer the calm billionaire from the street. He was just a father, walking back and forth, rubbing his hands together, whispering prayers under his breath. Devon sat on a cushioned chair, his back bent, his head lowered. He kept replaying the moment he found Brielle. It had been late afternoon 3 weeks ago. Rain had just stopped. Devon was locking up his shop when he heard a soft sound behind the dumpster. A weak groan. At first, he thought it was a stray dog, but something about it made him look closer. That was when he saw her. Brielle, collapsed near the alley, clothes torn, skin dirty, eyes barely open. She looked like someone who had walked too far and finally fallen. Devon had hesitated, not because he didn't care, but because Detroit wasn't kind. Helping strangers could bring trouble, gangs, police, false accusations. But then she had whispered one word: help. And Devon knew he couldn't walk away. A door opened suddenly. Devon jumped. Theodore stopped pacing. A doctor stepped out, removing his gloves. "How is she?" Theodore asked quickly. The doctor sighed. "She's stable for now, very dehydrated, very malnourished. She's been without proper care for a long time, but she's a fighter." Theodore closed his eyes in relief. Tears slipped out again. "Thank God," he whispered. Devon felt his chest loosen slightly. "She'll need rest," the doctor continued. "We'll monitor her for a few more hours, then she can be discharged." Theodore nodded. "Whatever she needs." Then the doctor turned to Devon. "And you," he said calmly. "You did well. If she had stayed one more day without food and care, she might not have made it." Devon swallowed hard. He didn't know whether to feel proud or scared. 4 hours later, Brielle lay on a hospital bed. Her face looked cleaner now, softer. Her breathing was steady. Theodore sat beside her, holding her hand. Devon stood near the door, unsure if he belonged there. Brielle's eyes slowly opened. She blinked. Then she saw her father. "Daddy," she whispered. Theodore leaned forward instantly. "I'm here. I'm right here." Her eyes moved slowly until they found Devon. A weak smile touched her lips. Devon's heart skipped. "Thank you," she whispered faintly. Devon nodded, unable to speak. That night, Theodore took Brielle home, but Devon did not sleep. He lay on his thin mattress in the back room of his shop, staring at the ceiling. His mind was loud. Theodore Price, billionaire, missing daughter, convoy, hospital. None of it felt real. He wondered if trouble would come next. He wondered if he would be questioned or accused or blamed. Kindness always came with a price in Detroit. The next morning, Devon was under a Honda Civic tightening a bolt when the sound returned. Engines. Smooth, heavy, powerful. He froze again. The convoy came back. Black Escalades. Same shop. Same street. This time people gathered. Neighbors whispered. Kids pointed. Devon wiped his hands and stood up slowly. Theodore stepped out again. But this time, Brielle was with him. She wore a simple but elegant dress. Her hair was neatly braided. Her face was still pale, but alive. She walked carefully, straight toward Devon. Before Devon could speak, Brielle knelt right there on the cracked pavement. Devon panicked. "No, no, please stand up." But she bowed her head. "Thank you," she said clearly. "You saved my life." People gasped. Devon's eyes widened. Theodore stepped forward. "My daughter has thanked you," he said. "Now it's my turn." He turned to the crowd. "This man fed my child every day when she couldn't help herself." Devon's chest tightened. Theodore raised his voice. "I promise all of you," he said, "I will build the best auto repair facility in Detroit for Devon." The crowd erupted. Devon's knees shook. His world spun. And as he tried to understand how his life had changed in one moment, Theodore added something else quietly that made Devon's heart drop again. "But first," Theodore said, looking at Devon closely, "you need to tell me everything that happened to Brielle from the day you found her." Theodore's eyes hardened with seriousness as he asked Devon to explain how Brielle almost died. Devon opened his mouth, knowing that what he was about to reveal could change everything and possibly put him in danger. The shop went quiet. Too quiet. The crowd that had gathered moments ago, neighbors, kids, street vendors, slowly stepped back as if they sensed something serious was about to happen. The guards formed a loose circle, not threatening, but alert. Devon felt every eye on him. Theodore's gaze was steady now, no longer full of tears. This was the look of a man used to truth, power, and consequences. "Speak," Theodore said gently but firmly. "Take your time." Devon swallowed. His hands were still shaking. "I found her at night," he began slowly, "near the alley behind those dumpsters." He pointed. Brielle listened quietly, sitting beside her father on a folding chair a guard had brought. Her hands were folded on her lap. Her eyes stayed on Devon, soft but serious. "She was alone," Devon continued, "very weak. She asked for help. I wanted to take her to a hospital, but she couldn't stand. I don't have a car, so I brought her inside." Theodore nodded. "I fed her," Devon said, "little by little. Soup, water, bread when I could afford it. Some days she couldn't eat. Some days she cried in her sleep." Brielle's eyes lowered. Devon's voice cracked. She kept saying sorry like she was afraid of being a burden. Brielle bit her lip. Theodore's jaw tightened. "She told me she escaped," Devon added. "She said men held her. She didn't know where she was anymore." At those words, Theodore stood up sharply. The guard stiffened. Brielle flinched slightly. "Men?" Theodore asked, his voice suddenly cold. "What men?" Devon hesitated. "I don't know them, sir. She didn't say their names, only that they left her near the street when she became too sick." Theodore closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them again, they burned. He turned to his head of security. "We'll talk later." The guard nodded. Brielle reached out and touched her father's arm. "Daddy, please," she whispered. "I'm safe now." Theodore looked down at her, and the fire in his eyes softened. 5 months later, the struggling repair shop was gone. In its place stood something Detroit had never seen before. A massive modern automotive center, bright LED lights, clean floors, state-of-the-art equipment, multiple service bays, glass offices, a digital signboard so big people stopped to take pictures even without reading it. Devon stood at the center of it all, wearing a clean navy blue uniform, staring like a man inside a dream. Dozens of mechanics moved around, working efficiently. Cars lined up, luxury vehicles, company fleets, classic restorations, and every single person there called him Boss Devon. Devon had tried to refuse at first, but Theodore wouldn't hear it. "This isn't charity," Theodore had said. "This is justice." Within a year, Devon's life changed faster than his mind could keep up. He became known, respected, successful. He bought a house in Palmer Woods, bought a truck, employed over 60 mechanics, and yet every time he saw Brielle, something in his chest shifted. Brielle came often. At first, just to say thank you again. Later, to sit and talk. She asked questions about cars, about Devon's childhood, about how he learned to survive alone. Devon tried to keep distance. She was a billionaire's daughter. He was a mechanic who once ate ramen noodles for dinner 3 nights straight. But life kept pushing them together. Devon's company handled the maintenance of all Theodore's vehicles and all his company cars. Meetings became conversations. Conversations became laughter. Laughter became silence that felt heavy with meaning. One evening, as the sun dropped behind the building, Brielle stood beside Devon, watching workers close for the day. "You gave me a second chance at life," she said softly. "Before you helped me, I had given up." Devon looked away. "I only did what anyone should do." She smiled sadly. "Not everyone does." Their hands brushed. Neither pulled away. Theodore watched everything. He said nothing until one night he called Devon to his office. The room was quiet, large, powerful. "Do you love my daughter?" Theodore asked without warning. Devon's heart almost stopped. "I respect her, sir. That wasn't my question." Devon took a deep breath. "Yes," he said, "I do." Theodore studied him for a long time. Then he nodded. "If you hurt her," he said calmly, "you'll answer to me." Devon bowed his head. "I understand." 7 months later, Detroit talked about one wedding. The day Theodore walked his daughter down the aisle. The day he placed Brielle's hand into Devon's. The day cameras flashed and the city whispered. But just as the vows were about to begin, a man stepped forward from the crowd, shouting, pointing. "This marriage shouldn't happen," the man yelled. "That mechanic is hiding something." The hall exploded into noise. Devon's heart dropped. His fingers loosened. Brielle turned to him, confused. Theodore stood still, and the man raised his hand, holding a folder. "This document," he said loudly, "will destroy everything you think you know about Devon." In front of the wedding crowd, a stranger accused Devon of hiding a dark secret and claimed to have proof. Devon stood frozen, knowing that one truth from his past could tear apart everything he had built. The wedding hall fell into chaos. Gasps ripped through the air. People stood up from their seats. Phones came out. Whispers spread like wildfire. Devon felt the blood drain from his face. Brielle turned fully toward him, her eyes wide with confusion and fear. "What is he talking about?" she whispered. Devon couldn't answer because the man standing there, Devon knew him, not by name but by memory. A dark, painful memory he had buried so deep he prayed it would never return. Theodore raised his hand slowly. The room quieted, not because people wanted silence, but because they feared it. "Who are you?" Theodore asked calmly. The man stepped forward. He was in his late 40s, dressed cheaper than the guests, but his eyes were sharp and bold. "My name is Raymond," the man said, "and I know Devon very well." Devon's throat tightened. Raymond lifted the folder higher. "This man you're about to give your daughter to," Raymond continued, pointing at Devon, "was once arrested in this city." A loud gasp echoed. Brielle shook her head. "That's not true." Raymond smiled thinly. "Isn't it?" All eyes turned to Devon. His legs felt like stone. Theodore's face hardened. "Devon," he said quietly, "look at me." Devon forced his eyes up. "Tell me," Theodore said, "is there any truth in what this man is saying?" The hall felt like it was shrinking. Devon opened his mouth, closed it, then finally spoke. "Yes," he said. The single word hit the room like a bomb. Brielle staggered back a step. "What?" she breathed. "I was arrested once," Devon said, his voice shaking but clear. "Years ago." The hall erupted again. "No way! Are you serious? A criminal?" Brielle's eyes filled with tears. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice breaking. Devon turned to her fully. "Because I was ashamed," he said softly. "And because the truth isn't what people think." Raymond laughed loudly. "Listen to him," he mocked. "Always the innocent one." Theodore raised his hand again. "Explain," he ordered. Devon took a deep breath. His mind traveled back to a time he had tried to forget. Years ago, before the shop, before the struggle, before Brielle. Devon had been younger, hungry, desperate. He worked as an assistant in another garage. One night, thieves broke into the place. Cars were stolen. Parts disappeared. Police arrived. Devon was there. He was poor. He had no connections, no lawyer, no voice. They said I helped them, Devon said, his eyes wet. But I didn't. I was sleeping in the shop that night because I had nowhere else to go. Raymond interrupted loudly. Lies. Devon ignored him. I spent 2 weeks in a cell, Devon continued. 2 weeks of hell until the real thieves were caught trying to sell the stolen parts. My name was cleared. He looked at Brielle. I was innocent. Brielle's tears rolled freely now. Raymond waved the folder again. This paper says he was arrested, he shouted. That's enough. Theodore stepped forward slowly. Give me that folder. Raymond hesitated. A guard took it from him. Theodore read it carefully. Then he looked up. This document shows an arrest, Theodore said. It also shows a release. Case dismissed. Raymond's smile faded slightly, but Theodore continued. Why are you here now? Raymond's face twisted with anger. Because that shop, he snapped, used to belong to my cousin. The crowd murmured. He lost it, Raymond went on. After Devon became famous, clients left. Business died. Devon frowned. That's not true. I didn't. You ruined him, Raymond shouted. Theodore's eyes narrowed. So this isn't about justice, he said. This is about envy. Raymond stepped back. Brielle wiped her tears and walked toward Devon. Her hands trembled as she held his face. You saved me, she said softly. I know who you are. Devon broke. Tears ran freely down his face. But just as relief started to enter the room, another voice spoke. Cold. Controlled. This wedding still isn't safe. Everyone turned. A woman stepped forward. Professional, well-dressed, unknown. I'm Detective Patricia Hayes, she said, and there's one more thing you all need to know. Theodore's heart sank. What now? He asked. The detective looked directly at Devon. The men who kidnapped Brielle, she said, are still at large. Silence fell like death, and she added slowly, we believe someone here today helped them. Brielle's hand slipped from Devon's face. The detective raised her finger and pointed straight at Devon. As the detective accused Devon of being linked to Brielle's kidnapping, the wedding hall froze in horror. Brielle stepped away from him in shock, and Theodore's eyes darkened. Because now Devon wasn't just defending his past. He was fighting for his freedom. The wedding hall felt like it had stopped breathing. Detective Hayes's finger was still pointed at Devon. The music had died. The smiles had vanished. The joy that once filled the room drained away like water on hot pavement. Brielle's hand slipped from Devon's fingers. Her eyes searched his face, not with anger, but with fear. Fear of losing him. Fear of losing the truth. Fear that the world she had fought so hard to return to was about to break again. Devon, she whispered, her voice shaking. Tell me she's wrong. Devon's mouth opened, but for a second no sound came out. Every memory crashed into him at once. The cell, the hunger, the nights he slept on cardboard because he had nowhere else to go. The day he found Brielle barely breathing behind his shop. I swear on my life, Devon said finally, his voice loud but broken. I had nothing to do with anyone hurting her. I would rather die than harm Brielle. Detective Hayes raised her palm gently. No one has said he's guilty, she said firmly. This isn't a trial. Theodore stepped forward, his face unreadable. You pointed at the man who saved my daughter, he said slowly. You will explain every word. Detective Hayes nodded. When Brielle was kidnapped, she began, we tracked the group responsible. They weren't amateurs. They had done this before. Brielle shivered. They moved her from place to place, the detective continued. They demanded ransom. But something went wrong. The hall was silent again. Brielle became very sick, Detective Hayes said. She stopped eating. She stopped responding. The men panicked. Brielle closed her eyes, memories flooding back, dark rooms, rough hands, voices arguing. They discussed killing her, the detective said quietly. They believed she was no longer useful. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Brielle's knees weakened, but Theodore quickly moved behind her, steadying her shoulders. Detective Hayes took a breath, but one man argued with them. Devon's head snapped up. "One man," Theodore repeated. "Yes," the detective said. "A young man. Someone they had known before. Someone who once worked in the same garage where they hid stolen vehicles years ago." Murmurs spread. Detective Hayes's eyes locked onto Devon, not accusing now, but searching. "That man," she said, "was known among criminals as the stubborn one. The one who refused dirty money. The one who argued when things were wrong." Devon's heart thundered. "They said he once stood up to them," the detective continued. "That argument led to his false arrest." Raymond's face began to pale. "They remembered him," Detective Hayes said. "And when Brielle became too sick, they remembered what that man had said years ago." She paused. He said, "Even a broke person is still a person." The room gasped. Brielle's eyes filled with tears. So instead of killing her, the detective finished. They abandoned her near the street. Theodore's hand flew to his mouth. Brielle covered her lips, sobbing. Detective Hayes turned fully to Devon. "That man was you," she said clearly. "Your character saved her twice." Silence exploded into sound. People cried openly. Some clapped. Some whispered prayers. Brielle broke free from her father and ran into Devon's arms. "I knew it," she cried. "I knew you weren't lying." Devon held her tightly, shaking, his tears soaking into her veil. "I was scared," he whispered. "I didn't want my past to destroy your future." Brielle pulled back and looked at him. "My life began again because of you," she said. "How could your past frighten me?" Theodore stepped forward. His eyes were wet. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he did something that shocked everyone. He bowed his head slightly toward Devon. "Forgive me," Theodore said, "for doubting the man who fed my daughter when I couldn't find her." Devon froze. "No, sir." Theodore raised his hand. "You're not just marrying my daughter," he said. "You're joining my family." Raymond tried to step back quietly, but Detective Hayes turned sharply. "Stop right there." Raymond's voice cracked. "I only wanted the truth." Detective Hayes's eyes were cold. "You wanted revenge." She nodded to security. Raymond was seized immediately. "You'll answer for false accusation and attempted disruption," she said calmly. Raymond screamed as he was dragged away, his words breaking apart in the noise. The hall slowly settled. The officiant cleared his throat, his voice shaking with emotion. "Shall we continue?" Brielle laughed through tears. "Yes, please." The wedding resumed, but something had changed. This time, the joy was deeper, stronger. When Theodore walked Brielle down the aisle again, his steps were steady with pride. At the altar, he placed Brielle's hand into Devon's. "You gave her food when she was dying," Theodore whispered. "Now give her a lifetime of love." Devon nodded, tears blurring his vision. "I will," he promised. They exchanged vows, simple words, honest words. When they were pronounced husband and wife, the hall erupted in cheers louder than any music. Life after the wedding didn't slow down. If anything, it grew fuller. Devon's automotive center expanded again, now known across Michigan and beyond. Young mechanics came from different cities, hoping to learn from the man whose kindness became legend. But Devon never changed. Every morning he still arrived early, still wore coveralls, still spoke gently to apprentices. Brielle joined him often, not as a billionaire's daughter, but as his wife. One day, she found the old plastic chair stored behind the center. "This is where I sat," she said quietly. Devon nodded. "And this is where I learned who I really was," he replied. Together, they started something new. Every Saturday, food was prepared and sent out to homeless shelters, to street corners, to community centers. Brielle insisted on going along. She served meals with her own hands. When people thanked her, she smiled and said, "Someone once fed me when I couldn't stand." One evening, as they watched the sun set over the center, Brielle leaned against Devon. "Do you know what truly saved me?" she asked softly. Devon thought for a moment. "Food." She shook her head. "Not just food," she said. kindness that refused to stop. Devon looked around. The equipment, the workers, the life that grew from a single choice. He remembered the weak girl leaning against a metal cabinet, the water bottle shaking in his hand. The fear, the hope. Sometimes the world isn't saved by power, he thought. Sometimes it's saved by a man who keeps helping even when no one is watching. My beautiful people, thank you for watching this emotional story. If it touched your heart, please like this video so more people can learn from it. And if you're new here, hit subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Don't miss any of our powerful stories. Before you leave, tell me in the comments, what part of today's story touched you the most? Your comments help the channel grow and bring more stories your way. See you in the next emotional journey.